Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And as it happens, I really want to talk about the Minotaur PC. No, we're not talking about the Minotaur PC. No, the topic for today is the absolute worst Dungeons and Dragons 5e or any version of the game whatsoever, the absolute worst D&D player taboos that you can actually wind up doing or being involved in. The very first on my list is reading the Dungeon Master notes and going through their personal text messages on their phone. That is really considered absolutely unacceptable and should be for anybody really. What about punching and shooting the Dungeon Master when you do not agree with what they have said at the table? Whether that be a ruling or a description or anything like that, absolutely punching and shooting the Dungeon Master should not be happening at your table. So don't do that. One of the things that I find very frustrating is when players show up at the wrong house. They have been told which house to go to, but they go to the wrong house and they show up on the wrong day to play in the Dungeons and Dragons game session. And that is just ridiculous. They should know because they've been going to the same house for who knows how long, right? This is one that comes up quite often. I think people sort of forget that things don't necessarily belong to them, but that's stealing the Dungeon Masters or the players' dice, miniatures, books, and other Dungeons and Dragons gear. Don't do that. That's a really bad thing. Flipping over the table when you don't agree with the Dungeon Master or another player's choices or their rulings at the table when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Don't have a tantrum. Don't throw a wobbly because it doesn't look good and it's unacceptable in a social environment. Players never bringing snacks to eat at the table. Everybody else brings snacks, but you don't bring snacks and you are pretty much eating everybody else's stuff every single time we play the game, but you bring nothing of your own. That is a grievous, grievous issue. This one is my pet peeve, as particularly when I'm a Dungeon Master, and that is when somebody decides to interrupt the Dungeon Master or somebody else when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, or they have like an independent conversation unrelated to Dungeons and Dragons, really revolved around their own personal ego, and then they sort of think that everybody thinks that's going to be all right. You are not the most important person at the table, in the room. Don't interrupt people and certainly don't use unrelated topics to sort of throw the limelight on yourself and take the limelight off somebody else who deserves it, because it's not good. Getting the Hobbit movies or the Hobbit story confused with the Lord of the Rings. They are two different stories. They are not completely the same. There is some differences to them. There are different characters involved. They're not all the same characters. And if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you should know better than to get those particular stories or movies confused. So don't do that. Having an intimate relationship with your magic sword. I mean, having any kind of intimate relationship at the table sometimes can be an issue, but an intimate relationship with your sword where you talk to it and do other things, no, not appropriate at the Dungeons and Dragons table or the game session. So don't do that. There are other relationships, but we're not going into that because it's just going to get way too wacky, way too strange. For those of you who like to test the boundaries and be new and inspiring, creating new Dungeons and Dragons player taboos, don't try this. Don't try to be the person who was the first person to actually figure out that this was a really bad idea. So don't do that. It's really, really inappropriate. And you don't want to be making your way onto social media where people start talking about you in a certain way. And there are other relationships that we certainly don't want to talk about right now that are inappropriate, certainly at the Dungeons and Dragons table. But if you have anything that you would like to, any questions, any feedback, you can put that in the comment section. If you thought this was a very confusing video and not educational in any way and was simply for entertainment, then hit the like button. Put the thumbs up button on. If you thought this was really, really bad educational video content, then I think you missed a point, and it's the thumbs down button you want. So I have other videos, not necessarily like this one, but you're welcome to go and watch them. I have videos for players and dungeon masters. I have a Patreon account where you can support me, so I keep making videos. And I also have affiliate links down in the description where you can go and buy stuff if you feel like it from the book depository and Amazon. So remember to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be, that's the bell button, not the bell, the bell button, and not the bell on the cow, the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.